How do you do? How are you? Hey, I got a special one here. This is a new one from Boulevard. Their pop-up IPA. Of course, you know their regular IPA is a single wide. Their double or imperial is a double wide. Hence pop-up. Get it? Ha! That's why that's funny. I'll tell you that right now. So let me pop it, pour, and I'll tell you about it. Obviously, this is their session IPA, which even I know as I say those words, some beer geek slash snob somewhere is going to get their panties in a wad because they're calling it a session IPA. Oh, it's got a beautiful aroma. So let me read here real quick. I'll let that. Ooh, wow, the aromas are intense. Let me read from their website here. Boulevard Pop-Up Session IPA. They're calling it straight out of session, folks. Join just Big Brothers single wide and double wide in our trailer park of hop-centric beers. This session model is built for frequent excursions with a very drinkable character and relatively low bitterness tucked behind a big fruity hop aroma. The IBUs on this are 40.5. The ABV is 4.2. They don't list specific malts and hops on this one, although they do on some of their other beers. Aroma is very intense. Very big, piney little citrus. Grapefruit specific. Let's take a drink, shall we? Wow. I was saying I was getting more pine on the nose with a little grapefruit in the back, but the taste is all grapefruit, baby. Uh, with just yeah, there it is. Yeah, the pine gets you right at the end, but the first you're just wow. You're surrounded by grapefruit. It's the opposite on the aroma. It's kind of turned around there, but there you go. Ah, it's beautiful beer. Actually, it's nice. Wow, very nice. You know, for some reason, this style, this style has caused some controversy because beer geeks think every tiny ass little thing is important for some reason or another. Is this a legitimate style? Well, here's my thoughts on it. The fact that there are more breweries coming out with what they call a session IPA, at some point you're going to have to just say it's a legitimate style. Whether you want to recognize it or not, enough breweries printed on their bottles, well, hey, you know, whether you think it's legitimate or not, it exists. So I'd have to say, yeah, it's a legitimate style. The other thought there is 4.2%. Where are you now you not only have to deal with the style Nazis with what they call it, you got to deal with the session beer Nazis with how much ABV is. This is 4.2. Now for me, 4.2 is a session beer. I mean, there is no way you can say 4.2% is not a session beer. You know, you can say specific styles. If you want to say specific styles shouldn't be above a certain percentage to be session. If you want to say, for instance, a Berliner Weiss should never be above 3.5%. If you want to say an English mild, for instance, should never be above 4%. Yeah, I'm okay with that. But you can't say a session beer, to be a session beer, it could only be 4%. Because that's a whole other argument. If you want to say a specific style can only be a certain ABV, well, that's okay. I can't argue with that. That makes sense. Or you call it something else. But you can't say a session beer is only 4% because that's all the style is. Well, there's other styles involved, so it just doesn't make any sense to me to draw a line. So, oh, 4%, that's it. Oh, you mean 4.2 is going to knock you on your ass? No, that's asinine to say that. Obviously, this is easy to drink because it's going down fast, boy. Oh, wow, man. Beautiful. It's got beautiful color. Look at that. That's just gorgeous. I've had, let's see, of this style, I've had the Lagunitas Daytime, the Founders All Day IPA and the Schlafly Can Session in this one. And I've got to say, I'm not going to tell you a favorite, but I've got to say of the four, as far as how they drink, and I think that's kind of in question as far as what to call these beers, is how they drink. But how they drink, their consistency, their mouthfeel, how they come across. The Schlafly Canned Session IPA actually is the one that has, for me anyway, the contrast where, yeah, I'm okay calling it an IPA. I've got one of my beer friends that I respect greatly, John Brew Guru, mentioned that he likes the Founders All Day, but to him it's more of a smaller American pale, and I can't argue with that. However, as far as the Schlafly beer goes, and even this one too, as a matter of fact, even though they're lighter than what you would think an IPA is, neither of those two have the characteristics of an APA. There's a greater contrast between the malt and the hops than in an APA. That's why I wouldn't refer to these as APAs. Can you refer to them as an IPA? Well, let me use this analogy and see who I piss off with this one. A Whopper. A Whopper, right? It's a big sandwich. It's got a big patty. You got lettuce, tomato, ketchup, mustard, mayo. You got a Whopper Junior. It's basically the same sandwich, just a little smaller. And that's kind of what we're saying here, right? This is basically an IPA, just a little smaller. Substitute the word session for junior. Call it a junior IPA. And you've got the same concept. I think at some point, the real militant style Nazis, they may not have to give in, because some folks got their feet so dug in that there's no way they can give in at this point. But they're going to be overrun by, well, common sense. Common sense. If you make enough beers, if everybody, if the greater portion of craft brewers start coming up with these session IPAs, and here's a very important part to that, and they sell and they're popular, well, you have to give credence to the style. And the same thing with the so-called black IPA. They're originally called India Darks, then they were called dark IPAs and black IPAs. Yeah, it is a legitimate style. Can something be black and pale? Well, I mean, it's all on how you want to read into that. But yeah, of course it's a legitimate style. If you don't like it, don't buy them, but there you go. I think too much gets made out of what's in a name. And like I said, beer snobs like to argue about some silly ass shit. It's not written in stone what a style is, what constitutes a style. Moses doesn't have, God didn't hand Moses a tablet that said a session beer can only be 4%. So to say it's written in stone and draw the line, it just seems ridiculous to me. I mean, again, I'm going to say something that's going to piss off some beer snobs. It's only beer, y'all. Nobody loves this stuff more than I do. But we're not talking about world peace. And I mean, nobody loves this stuff more than I do. Beer Whisperer's telling you that right now. And if we could solve the world's problem with beer, hey, I'm all for it, man. This is very easy to drink. I got to say, though, yeah, I mean, it is very light. It even feels lighter to me than the Schlafly version. But it doesn't... How do I say this right? There's enough contrast between the sweet malt and the hops for me to say it's a small version of an IPA. I wouldn't call it a pale ale because it doesn't drink like a pale ale. It doesn't drink like an IPA. And if you're real militant about the style, I mean, the truth is what we're calling an IPA now, what American craft brewers have done with an IPA itself, just what's called an IPA, is not even close to traditional British versions. I mean, so that there actually should be 100 subcategories for IPA because it's taken a whole lot of different directions. I mean, of course, there is a subcategory of the West Coast IPA, whatever that is. So anyway, I ran awful long, but I got talking, and so anyway, here it is. Pop-Up Boulevard. I didn't mention this earlier. I'm only drinking this because a friend at my beer store, and I'm not going to mention his name or the store because I don't want to get him in trouble. We were talking about the style, and he said they just got this. They won't have it for sale for about another week or so, but they got it sent in for a tasting, and he gave me a bottle to take home. That's why I'm doing this video right now. Dang it! There you go. Hey, I'm done the Beer Whisperer. Bye.